Hey everyone, Nathaniel here, and I'm going to talk to everyone about the very first big name candidate to drop out of the 2020 race on the Democratic side, New York's junior senator, Kirsten Gillibrand. Now, I live part-time in New York each year, and so she is one of my state senators in a way, and I have worked with her in the past on constituent issues, and I met with her in New York and in Iowa. As far as the candidate is concerned, she's a really nice person. Anyone who's actually spending time with Kirsten Gillibrand knows she's a very nice person. Her family was really nice. I had a lot of fun actually hanging out with her husband. So it is kind of bittersweet for me because she was actually one of my favorite people to kind of run around with. But I want to talk to you guys a little bit about why did she not catch on. I'm talking about a senator from New York. Didn't catch on. She's actually a really prestigious name and probably had more name recognition in the state of Iowa than many of the other contenders to begin with, but it didn't catch on. And I want to kind of go over the reasons why I believe that happened from my experience running around with her along with all the other candidates. Kirsten Gillibrand had her very first big state of Iowa campaign stop even before she announced in Des Moines, Iowa. This was just across the street from where Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren came and did her first stop back in January. The crowd was packed. Everyone was really super excited to see and meet Kirsten Gillibrand. The crowd was probably maybe 200-300 people, and that was only because the venue wouldn't allow any more people. C-SPAN was there, CNN was there, the whole media gaggle. This was a big event. In fact, there were more people initially trying to get in to see Kirsten Gillibrand than the Elizabeth Warren event that happened just prior. Her message was pretty simple. It's more about women's issues. She really wanted to be the champion for women. And her strategy wasn't misguided because it's been really well known, and even the Trump campaign has discussed that the suburbs, the suburban women are going to be a key factor in the race in 2020. And so she wasn't completely off the mark when it comes to issues that were going to determine the election in 2020. The problem, as I have seen, is that she didn't talk about anything else. There's a lot of issues that don't pertain only to women that affect women. And she didn't really seem to have much discussion about those at most of her engagements and most of her events. I mean, the fact that someone was looking for ranch dressing seemed to be more important at the media and as far as everyone discussing what the issues were than the fact that what she was discussing as a candidate for president. A couple things I will say about the candidate is that when people were speaking, she would take pretty detailed notes of what they were saying, and she would try to make sure when she answered that each point of the question was addressed, and so a person was able to feel like the candidate listened. I also know from personal experience that Senator Gillibrand keeps these notes, and she does use the information to kind of build a way of promoting better policy, not only as a presidential candidate, but in her own state of New York. And in her town halls in New York City, the ones I've been to in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and a couple have been upstate, she's very, very dedicated to making sure she takes really good notes and trying to address the question at all the levels. And if she doesn't have the answer, she'll straight up tell you, I don't have the answer. But I have seen staff actually make sure they get the person's name. One time it was me she didn't have an answer for, and they did get it back a hold of me with their position. So she was really good at that. The problem is one of her better policies was how to take care of education, and it was kind of what Eric Swalwell was pushing, but much better as far as trying to get people into apprenticeship programs and trying to get people to start that higher education in high school and a little bit younger than that, which is basically what Future Ready Iowa in the state of Iowa is already doing. So they kind of saw what was going on in Iowa and just adopted it on a national level, which I believe is where the future of education is going to be going. So we'll see how that works. But that was something that she got a lot of high marks on. People really liked about her talk after the event, but her campaign never really wanted to push that. Her campaign staff here in Iowa really seemed to just want to push the women-centric issues more so than the other issues that also have an effect on women. And I think a lot of that's more of what her campaign's council, her campaign committee, really thought would be the better strategy, because she seemed to want to talk about those issues. And privately, once she was off her stump, she would engage people about those specific issues, and she was getting a lot of conversation, a lot of praise for those issues, but she never talked about those on the stump. When she did her soapbox in Des Moines, they weren't discussed. When she did all of her soapboxes, all of her stump speeches around Iowa, she never really addressed that so much. She was more really specific on women-only issues, and what her issues weren't wrong. These are issues that are affecting hundreds of thousands of women all across the country, but not only those issues matter. And I believe that any other candidate could easily pick up what Kirsten Gillibrand was promoting and make it part of theirs. But Kirsten didn't do anything. To bring other issues to her platform to kind of flesh out her campaign and her policies. And I think that's actually one of her biggest downfalls. The reason why she wasn't catching on with everyone is because she wasn't addressing all of the issues that affect everybody. She's not the only one in this scenario. There's a few other candidates that I believe are going to eventually start dropping out because they don't have a full-fledged policy on all these kitchen table issues. Because things that affect farmers, there's other things that affect farmers that don't pertain to farming specifically. There's a lot of things that pertain to people who are on government medical assistance that affect them, but there's other things that also affect them, and they're not talking about the whole picture. And candidates that aren't addressing the entire picture, I think you're going to start seeing more of them drop off. And I'll get to them as they drop off, because I've got their state and city flags on the way. So we'll see how that goes. But there's a lot they really need to start working on as far as fleshing out their policies, more than just the rhetoric, which is so far, other than Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker, a lot of people are just promoting the same rhetoric. They're either for Medicare for all or they want some type of hybrid system. And that's kind of the majority. And then obviously we hate Trump. That's not enough to win an election, because there's a lot of people who might not like what Trump says and how Trump does things, but they like the direction the country's going. I'm out there on doors quite a bit, and even on knocking on Democratic doors, because I go there and say, hi, I just want to know what your opinion is of everything, and I get a lot of it, and they don't like what he says. They don't like a lot of the stuff that he tweets, but they are not against all of his policies, and they need to address the things that people like about Trump, and how they could either do that equally or better, but they're not. And Kirsten Gillibrand really never fleshed out her campaign the way it should. The biggest complaint I have with trying to work with her campaign is that when I was trying to inform them of feedback, because my job in this is to make sure that everyone gets the chance to hear what a candidate has to say, so they can make an educated decision on who they want and who they don't want. And I also try to establish the same relationship with the candidates. So candidates hear the positive and negative feedback. So I'm not so much trying to change their policy or directing their policy, but they have a chance to hear the feedback and then make the appropriate changes to address what people in a particular state are wanting to do. And Gillibrand's staff was not into any of it. They had their set ideas of what they wanted to talk about, and if anything didn't jive with that, they kind of ignored it. And you saw that with her numbers as they started dwindling. Her last couple of months, her numbers kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller because her speech never changed. It was the same thing. And that's okay. Every candidate does that, but they grow. Their stump speech grows. They get more in tune with what's working and what the feedback is, and then they change up. Unfortunately, for Senator Gillibrand, nothing changed. The stump speech stayed the same. No adaptations to be more responsive to the local dialogue that she should have been getting from people that her staff, her campaign staff, really didn't seem to be willing to engage with. So it is sad to see someone who I actually really like as a person, and I actually am going to miss hanging out with, because with doing this and really trying to be a policy person like I am, a constituent services person like I am, I have to work with everybody. I have to make sure that, that everyone has a chance to get their issues heard, regardless if they have a Democrat or Republican member of the Congress or the Senate. I mean, sometimes they don't get to choose who the representatives are. I just want to make sure those representatives that they have are effective and efficient. And on the official side, in her New York City office, her staff is actually really good. And if it wasn't for Kirsten Gillibrand's New York City staff, there's a lot of people in New York City that would get little to no help with federal agencies. And so I am going to always promote and compliment her staff for being really good at responding for constituent services, helping with federal agencies. And I believe Kirsten Gillibrand is a much better candidate and a much better person than what her campaign ended up showing. And I feel bad that she has come away from this a little damaged. I'm not going to lie. I do believe her status as a U.S. Senator from New York has been damaged. I believe that her election campaign, her next cycle for the U.S. Senate, will be a little bit more challenging. She may or may not win, depending on if she has a primary challenger. And I just want to make sure that when Senator Gillibrand gets this video, along with everyone else who's watching this, that these are some issues that I hope you look at, I hope you review for next time you go around, because beyond the politics of it, beyond the rhetoric and who supports Republicans, who supports Democrats, most of the people out here don't really care what party you're in. They actually just want to see results. They want to make sure that when they need help in the federal agency, they're able to obtain it. When they have a complaint, when they have a concern, someone's there to listen to them, but not only get a copy and paste scripted letter, but that there's an actual engagement with their elected officials. And that's something that I push for with what I do more than anything else. And I know Senator Gillibrand is actually really good at that personally. I just wish her campaign staff would have reflected Kirsten Gillibrand's good natures. And I wish Senator Gillibrand all my best. I hope you come back to Iowa, maybe not as a candidate, but as a partner in trying to ensure that every individual has an effective government that serves everybody, that is a U.S. citizen. And for those who want to become U.S. citizens and participate in this great country of ours, that they have the ability to, and that they have people working on their behalf versus some international conglomerate that's loyal to nothing but themselves. So to everyone else out there in Iowa caucus land, let's bid farewell to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. I wish you all the best, Senator. I'm sure I'll see you in D.C. and New York. For everyone else in Iowa, I wish you all the best. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, stay wise, and as always, stay classy, Iowa.